So, a couple of things about Tai Chi, right? It is just an idea. One of them is don't worry, right? What's the first thing that somebody says when they say, what do you do when somebody says don't panic? You panic. Don't panic. It's, some people say, oh, am I going to be able to get the movements down? Am I going to? Yeah, you will. It's not as complicated or as difficult as it looks. It usually, when people see it, they say, oh, wow, that looks really complex and I'm moving several parts of my body at the same time. Don't worry, we're going to break it down. You can do this. If I can do it, you can do it. So, we'll start with a premise. And the premise is that, a few premises. One is that we've all been conditioned. Is that fair? Right? Most of us have been conditioned, right? So, and I'm going to say this. Most of us probably, unless I'm the only one, didn't get the perfect upbringing. Right? Even if it was good, it may not have been perfect, right? There's no way to have teaching and be prepared for everything, right? So, most of us, when I talk to people about this sort of like modern day mindset, and we say, and you hear people say, I want to discover who I really am, that's kind of a big fascination now, right? I want to be who I really am. This isn't new. This isn't something that is some people think, oh, well, this is a modern problem. I've even heard people say it's a first world problem, People have been asking this question and trying to get to it forever, and it goes at least as far back as 2,500 years ago, almost, with Confucius. Confucius kind of got a bad rap, by the way, I always think. Ever since Benjamin Hoff wrote the Tao of Pooh, he kind of trashed Confucius without ever really reading him. And that's kind of a shame because people often think that Confucius had this very rigid mindset. He said, no, these are the rules and you follow the rules. It wasn't what he was getting at. I'm going to presume to speak for Confucius. What he was trying to say is, okay, right now there are a lot of aspects of life we can't control, right? I mean, there's so many things that I may or may not like out in the world that there is no way I can really have a direct effect on. So what Confucius said was, okay. He's like, so let's not project your attention and energy out there very much. Because when you do, you get weaker. Does that make sense? So we have this axiom. We say, attention energizes. Wherever I put my attention, that's where the energy goes. Right? So if I keep sending it out, this is going to get hollow. And then the second axiom, they say intention organizes. That's big today. Everybody likes, well, I intend and it's going to happen. Not exactly, because you need a lot of energy to make that happen. That's why when people say, well, I tried this whole intention thing and it didn't work. I was like, well, something has to fuel that. You've got to hold it together. And even then, it might not always work because it might not be right for us. It's okay. And so Confucius said, okay, well, what are the things that we can control? And he said, well, what you do every day. The day-to-day are the things that you can control. The problem is that our day-to-day becomes mechanical. When you think about it, like I do things, but I don't think about what I'm doing, and I don't necessarily care very much about what I'm doing. If as an example, I like to have green tea in the morning. I don't make a big deal out of it, right? I put the tea in the pot, I pour hot water over it, I let it steep, I pour it, I drink it, I say I like it or I don't like it. But if I were doing this in Confucian format, I'd make a ritual out of it if I wanted to. He didn't say you make a ritual out of everything, but he's saying there are certain things that if you take yourself out of your normal way of doing things and get into a state that is almost a little bit more highly attentive, somewhat ritualized, it changes something in us, wakes us up in a way. And we start to notice certain things. Some of the things that we start to notice is how we've been conditioned. And then we decide, do I want to keep it or do I want to throw it away? Does that make sense? Okay. So then we get to this idea of Confucian education, right? It wasn't that Confucius wanted everybody to fit into their role. That's what most people seem to think. What he said was, what's your role right now? Let's accept that role. Let's have you do it to the best of your ability, to do it so well that you grow stronger within that role. As you grow stronger within that role, you expand beyond the boundaries of that role. And then you fit into a new one.